Hey guys, this is your girl Lira, and you're listening to Self Reflection Podcast. Thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Self Reflection Podcast. I hope that this conversation is going to find you in great spirit. You know, today we are going to be talking about relationship and dating, but it's going to come from a male's perspective to the women, right? But the questions came from the women to the male. So that's what's going to be interesting about this conversation today. However, before we get into our podcast episode for today, I want to ask you if you have yet to do a self-reflection moment today or this week. Please go ahead and create some time to do some self-reflection. I found self-reflection to be one of those things that have helped me significantly with my mental health, right? It has allowed me the opportunity to be able to get into my mind and sometimes kind of shift things around, like literally, like you're able to like put things in different categories in that way, right? That's what self-reflection has been able to do for me. It has allowed me to be able to, I don't know how to say that word, but you get what I mean, right? Allow me to package my emotions in different places. So if you have yet to do some self-reflection, go ahead and do that. And also, if you are struggling in this moment and need some support, need some guidance, reach out to someone, right? Reach out to a pastor, a counselor, a friend, somebody. We cannot do this life by ourselves, right? I will say this every single time I get in front of this camera and with a microphone in front of me. You cannot do life alone, right? You need people. We need people. We're social beings. That's who we are, right? We need a community. However, finding the right community, that's the key. But still, we need people in our life. But guys, enough about me. Let's get into our podcast episode today. Today we're talking to Spencer. Thank you, Spencer, again for joining me.
Thank you, Lira. It's great. Always great to be with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's always great to compartmentalize with you.
How do you say the word?
Compartmentalize. Compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
You got it. That's
Compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's like I can't say the word commercialization.
Oh, that's a tough one, too.
How do you say that?
Commercialization?
Commercialization.
Commercialization. Yeah, that's it.
Commercialization.
You got it.
Oh.
That's it.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah. Compartmentalize.
Sorry.
Compartmentalize.
I cannot
and
say.
Commercialization.
Well, the C words are difficult. Okay, guys, I'll practice on those.
You are doing just fine. Just fine. Yeah.
I will practice on those.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive into relationship today. But before we get into our relationship, how are you feeling in this moment, Spencer?
I'm feeling really good in this moment. I always feel good when we get together to do these conversations because, first of all, it gives me a good feeling of, I don't know, a gratifying feeling that anybody would want to hear my views on things or my take on life. But I also feel like I'm serving a useful purpose.
Absolutely.
Because if I have something to offer that is going to help someone else, I don't know, deal with things in their lives, issues or questions or uncertainties, then that's a gratifying feeling. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm fulfilling a purpose while having fun doing it.
Well, thank you for joining us here. Talking about relationship, I feel like you're someone that has got a grip of relationship because you find value in family, right? So our first question here for you is, what's your biggest takeaway from working with successful women in the media space or in life in general?
Yeah. Well, before I give a direct answer, I'll just tell you that when I first came into the TV news business 54 years ago, there were almost no women in supervisory positions or in management, and there were very few on the air.
Yeah.
But I've always been attracted, even as a teenager, to strong, independent women, and I couldn't figure out why these TV stations back in the early 70s weren't hiring more strong, smart women, But you know the answer, because the male ego very often feels, intimidated by the strong, assertive female. Okay, so what was the question again?
Shout out to all the strong women out there. The question is, what's your biggest takeaway from working with
Yeah.
strong, successful women.
For me, the biggest takeaway is that what I've always believed is reality. Women should be equal to men in all ways, especially in the professional world, and I'm just personally thrilled to see some, like the last, let's see, the last three bosses I've had over the last 15, 20 years have been women. And I don't look at them any differently in a professional sense from the way I look at men. So biggest takeaway for me is that, it's about time. It's about time women are recognized for all of their talents and skills and all that they have to offer in the same way men would be, In both of my marriages, my wives have been strong, independent women. And I value their views on things, their advice, the way I would value advice from any strong, independent person,
Yes.
male or female. I'm just glad to see women being recognized more widely as, complete people, as full people. And yes, it's about time. That's my takeaway.
I love it.
What took so long?
I would say, I don't know, men not trying to scoot over.
Yeah,
kinda.
It's about. The male ego is something that women have always had to deal with, and the deeply embedded feeling that generations of men have had that men should be dominant. Men should be the final authority and the decision maker, and because it was always that way in the past. And look where it's gotten us, right?
Yeah.
So it's about time things have changed, and we start looking at men and women. Certainly, in almost every way, as equal partners in a relationship, equal participants in a business venture. I can't wait for our first female president. The rest of the world is so far ahead of us, European countries have had female presidents and prime ministers, Australia, New Zealand, and not just the free world, even some of the third world countries, as we call them. What's wrong with the United States? We've trusted our future in the hands of so many incompetent men. Why not give a woman a shot?
Yeah. Hey, we got one right now.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
What advice do you have for women on choosing a life partner?
I wish I had one of my wives here to answer to what things did they consider when they were choosing me as a partner.
Yeah.
Even though my first marriage ended in a divorce, my first wife and I still have great respect and admiration for each other. And, and a love, I don't mean like the romantic love, but, what should women consider when they look for a partner? Someone, if look for a partner who listens to you, who sees you, who really hears you when you speak and when you express your feelings. You look for someone who appears to really understand what you're saying and internalizes it.
Yeah.
That's another tough word to say, right? Because I think it's fair to say, and I'm generalizing, that many men get so caught up in wanting to be in control in a relationship. They tend very often not to listen to the women in their lives and consider what they feel, how they feel. I like to make women in my life, whether it's, like a romantic partner, like a wife or my daughter or my mother or my boss, feel like, I'm paying attention to them. I hear what they have to say. It doesn't just go in one ear and come out the other. I think a lot of men are blinded by the gratification they want to get out of a relationship, and they think about that more than they think about showing respect and appreciation and love to their partners.
And just a follow-up question on that, like, what does it do to you when you feel like the woman notice that you are paying attention to them, right? Because I think that sometimes men might not see that, like, yo, by me paying attention to my woman, right, listening to her and so forth, right, it actually might benefit me in the long run.
And that's exactly what happens if you listen, and the woman in your life knows that you're listening, that you understand the feeling she's trying to express.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, you get that back, four times in love and attention and affection. Yeah, I mean, you, in a relationship, you really have to give if you expect to receive.
Mm.
And men really have to give women that attention, the understanding. I really hear what you're saying. I mean, you're telling me how you feel, and I get it, Oh, if a man gives that to the woman in his life, he's going to get back in return so much more. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
All
right, man, that's the secret sauce right there. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is just listen.
And also be thoughtful about things like, don't wait for a birthday or an anniversary to send a card or a gift or flowers or make a special gesture.
Yeah.
Do it just because it's Wednesday, on any day that ends in Y. Just make a thoughtful gesture that shows your love, your appreciation, your thoughtfulness. Don't just wait for a special date.
Yeah.
And that will reward you.
Yeah.
Believe me.
We don't want to know. Our next question here is, how should women handle toxic relationships and emotional manipulation?
Well, the quick answer is get out of them. but no, if you're in a toxic relationship and you're being manipulated emotionally, you have to ask yourself, how long can I put up with this? And what is it doing to me? Is it causing me pain? Is it destroying my self-esteem? Am I not getting any gratification out of this relationship? Is this partner of mine, this toxic partner, doing this to me because he or she doesn't care about me? So just ask yourself, is it worth staying in this relationship and taking this abuse that I'm taking and this damage to my self-esteem just because I want to hang on to this and be a good partner? If your partner is not giving you what you need in return, and in fact is giving you negativity, then you just don't need to be in that relationship. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean the moment you start to feel that the relationship is toxic, you walk out the door. Talk to the partner if you can. Have some communication and find out. Ask, why are you doing this to me? Do you realize how I feel, how you're making me feel, how this relationship makes me feel? And if that partner can't communicate and give you any answers or any indication that he's willing to make changes to make the relationship healthier for both of you, then it's time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little add on there is, what are some things that men could do, or women, right? People could do in relationship to manipulate it a little bit in their benefit.
So then if you're not, in other words, if you're not getting what you need from the relationship, what can you do to kind of?
No, that because it says toxic relationship, right? How can women handle toxic relationship and emotional manipulation? So I'm thinking what are some things that they could be emotionally doing to manipulate the relationship?
Oh yeah.
That a woman or a man could pick up on that and okay, this is unhealthy for me.
Yeah. I don't have a really good answer off the top of my head to that, other than try to communicate with the partner. If you're the one being manipulated, try to have some communication with your partner about what he's doing to you, why he's doing it, what he gets out of it, or does he even realize he's being manipulative? Some people are manipulative without being scheming and planning about it. That's just the way they are. They don't realize so communicate with the partner first and let him or her know how you feel. And then if you don't get a good response to that, if what you say isn't being received, but the person is, making excuses or, what do you mean? I don't treat you that way. Then you look at the character of that person and you can see that may not be the person for you.
I think when you say, what do you mean? Gaslighting came to my mind.
Gaslighting.
Yeah.
Because
that's the word that came to mind.
That's exactly what it is, gaslighting. So you make the person who's on the receiving end of the abuse feel like it's their fault. They've done
Mhm.
something,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a very common thing that goes on in toxic relationships.
Yeah.
Is that gaslighting? And I don't know if there's a magical formula for getting out of it. Um, if you try the communication with your partner and that doesn't take you anywhere, then we were talking in a previous conversation about going to someone you trust, you can talk to, a friend, a family member, a clergy person, or a therapist, to talk about your relationship and what it's doing to you, and get some guidance from that person.
Yeah.
Because very often people outside the relationship can see more clearly what's going on in the relationship than the person inside the relationship.
Yeah.
We've got blinders on often, and a person on the outside can see it much more clearly. And it doesn't necessarily mean that person on the outside is always going to give you the best advice, but they're going to give you a different point of view
Yes.
from what you maybe.
Seeing.
Yeah.
I agree, because they're less emotionally what's it called, invested in it.
Invested, right.
So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Whew. Man, oh man. I think relationships were tough. They're hard to navigate, right?
They are.
Is it hard or is it not? Because I think that's one of the big things in our society today. A lot of us, including myself, we feel like, finding the right partner is so challenging out there today, right? So I don't know if it's this society, our generation is making relationship challenging, or if it's just a tough market out there.
It's all of that. It is tough. It's always been a tough market, but it does seem to be getting tougher. Relationships have always been challenging. We could go back a few generations when life seemed to be a little bit simpler, and a lot of married couples who weren't really growing with each other just kind of stayed in the relationship because it felt like the safe thing to do. There were children; they didn't want to go through the emotional pain
Yeah.
of splitting up, or maybe sometimes it was about money. If the man was the breadwinner and the woman wasn't working and had given up, any thoughts of a career to maintain the household and
Yeah.
raise the kids, the woman might feel like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I just kind of have to stay here and take it. Or vice versa. Men have felt similar kinds of feelings. I'm not, this isn't a gratifying relationship, but I don't know what to do now. We've been together 20 years. We have kids. And what's the rest of the world going to think of me if I walk away? So relationships have always been tough, but
Yeah.
we live in an age today where I'm so glad I'm not 20-something and single, because I don't know how I would navigate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in this position that you put me in, which I appreciate. Being the person with some wisdom and some maturity and some experience that might be useful to others, and I do appreciate that. But I honestly don't know how I would navigate relationships in today's world if I were a young single person.
Yeah.
I look at the social media and all the crazy misinformation and disinformation that's out there, and people who are looking for something to help them figure out who they are,
Yeah.
and what their path should be in life. How do you figure it out with all this stuff coming at you from 50 directions?
That's
And
true.
a lot of it is just BS.
I agree. I think social media has also made relationships like harder. Because it's like, who do you trust, right?
Yeah.
Like the 50-50 conversation, the 100, whatever, right? Men should pay 100 or women should pay 50%.
Yeah.
Like all of that. It's like,
every couple, I think, or every relationship has to deal with it in their own way. There can't be just one rule that applies to everybody.
Yeah.
But sharing and caring, those are two things that help
yes, I
make
agree.
any relationship stronger. Yeah.
Agree. Our next question here is: many women struggle with self-worth in this dating scene today, right? Because I feel like, first of all, as we were just talking about, social media have this idea of what women should kind of look like in today's society, right? Most women don't have the body is altered, right?
Hmm.
Also, social media have this like personality where women look a certain way,
Right.
right? Women
Right.
are making money a certain way, right? They're flaunting this money a certain way. So a lot of young girls a lot of young women are feeling insecure because they don't look like
Yeah.
this figure eight type of women that social media is projecting out there.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a lot of low self-worth, right? So how can they begin to build that self-confidence for themselves without altering their body or trying to fit this social media idea of what a woman should look like?
Yeah. I think that is still a difficult question to answer, but it was even tougher, one generation ago and two generations ago, when everything you saw in all the media was like this stick thin, skinny, or maybe shapely, but
Mm,
really thin, glamorous woman. And that
yeah.
was the model of what, the young girls saw as what I should be. At least now you can see full-figured women in commercials, full-figured women everywhere,
Yeah.
Uh, and they talk about it. They'll
Yeah.
say, "Well, I'm a curvy girl, and
Mhm.
I'm happy with my curvy body." And frankly, a lot of men are happy with women's curvy bodies too. But there is still that other message out there you're talking about
Mhm.
that somehow makes young women or all women feel like if I don't measure up to that, I'm not attractive, I'm not worthy, nobody will want me, I don't
Yeah.
have any value. I don't know how we cut through that except to encourage young women to not pay so much attention to messages they're getting from those messages,
Mhm.
and look at all the other messages that are out there too of women who look normal,
Yeah.
who have are still healthy and attractive, but they don't have stick thin figures,
Mhm.
because that's out there now too.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can find that more now, but the glamour magazines and all those still tend to go towards when you watch the Oscars, for example, or
Mhm.
any kind of awards program, involving entertainers and actors. The glamour is always the word that's attached to the woman that fits that image you were talking
Yeah.
about. You don't hear the people on the air who are interviewing these stars turn to a woman with a body like, I don't know, like Oprah, and say, "Oh, you look awesome."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so sad. And I don't know what the answer is, except just keep reminding yourself that doesn't have to be the way you have to look in order for you to have value, beauty,
Mm.
attractiveness, and worth. Yeah.
Yes. And as you're talking, I was all like, you know, at first you say a couple generations back, it's like this thin figure, right?
Yeah.
And then I want to say like my generation sort of is now like the BBL trend, right? But I also see in media, especially this 2025, I see a lot of celebrities going back to that like lean,
Yeah.
thin body really fast. So this trends to me, because I think it's a trend, right? It kind of fluctuates back and forward.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about this, what do you think is more of value, right? How should a person value themselves within
Mm.
themselves instead of like going with a trend?
Right. Well, I think the first thing is to try to not let all the other messages out there from other sources dictate to you how you should look at yourself.
Hmm.
And that's not always easy to do.
Yeah.
But but I know a lot of women who are very comfortable with who they are, who just don't allow the images they see in the media to dictate to them what their self-worth is, what their value is. I think if you focus on health
Mm,
more than on how you look, that's a good place to start.
yeah.
Because what makes you healthy isn't necessarily going to make you skinny,
Hmm.
but it's going to make you feel more attractive. If you eat the right way and exercise and do the things you need to be strong and healthy and to have energy and to feel, like stepping out, then that's gonna make you feel beautiful.
Hmm.
That's gonna make you feel pretty or make you feel sexy or whatever.
Agree.
And you don't have to, be 112 pounds. You could be 142 pounds and still feel good and healthy and sexy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you. Talking about exercise, and there's this like trend that goes out in right now, talking about trends,
Yeah.
right? It says if you want to lose weight, get in the gym. You want to gain weight, get in the
Get in the
gym.
gym,
You
right.
want to feel good, get in the
Get in the
gym. You want to
gym.
build your confidence, get in the
That's
gym,
right.
right? You
It's
want to get
true.
over your ex, get in the gym. So it's like,
Yeah. And if you
anyways.
want to feel more energetic, in addition to exercising, detoxify your body, change the way you eat, go on an occasional fast or, like a little fruits only binge for about a week or anything like that that is going to boost your energy, get the toxins out of you. Because when you eliminate the toxins from your physical body, you also eliminate the toxins from your brain that can affect your thinking and your moods and your self-esteem.
Yeah. Yes. Preach. I love it. Talking about social media, our next question here stems from social media. Social media has created this unrealistic standard, right? When it comes to dating, how can women stay true to themselves in that space?
Wow. Don't settle for less than what you know you deserve. That's I mean, it's easy to say that, right? But I see a lot of women, I shouldn't say a lot, but from time to time, I see young single women who may be attracted to a guy for certain reasons, I don't know, he's got a smooth way about him or he's attractive or, that sort of thing. But then after they spend some time with the guy, that they may see other things in the person that are not what they want in a partner. But sometimes people, and guys do this too, it goes both ways. Sometimes you continue pursuing or at least trying to build this relationship, even though you're seeing the downside, you're seeing the things in this person that, are not turn-ons, but turn-offs.
Yeah.
If you don't take the shallow point of view or the shallow perspective on the person or the relationship. If this person you have this initial attraction to is limited in what he has to offer you to building a relationship or to making you feel complete, then don't just stay in a relationship because of these too shallow reasons. Look for something more. Look for some depth. Look for some. Longevity isn't the word I'm looking for, but something that's lasting. Yeah.
Something that I would think would want to build a family. Those type of qualities. If I, at least from a single person perspective, right? Me looking right now to date, it's like I want somebody that could have help me build a family, help me build my life, support me in that space. Why I also support them. Right, someone that is emotionally there as well for me.
Absolutely, that person needs to be emotionally there for you as well. It's an old expression. It sounds trite almost. It's a two-way street, but really, I mean, if you are not receiving from this person you're interested in or person you find attractive what you're giving, then it's going to be out of balance.
Yeah.
It's never really going to be gratifying. It's not the long-term relationship that you should be investing yourself in. Ideally, there should be both parties in the relationship should be benefiting. Both should feel cared about. Both should feel loved. Both should feel wanted and desired. Both should feel respected. And if you're not getting that, but you're giving that, then that relationship isn't really going to go anywhere. It's not going to be a gratifying relationship over the long term. Short term, but you get your jollies, but then no, that's so shallow.
Yeah,
you can't build a relationship on that.
I agree. It's like, what's it called? Wearing an ankle weight and you jump in the pool, you just slowly sink in.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Yeah. As we come closer our conversation here, earlier when we came in the studio, you talked about how, the feminine side of your brain is active in relationships and just in general, I feel like, right? How did you cultivate that for yourself as a man? Right? And also, why is that important to be able to cultivate to be with your partner?
I think what started my way of looking at this is looking at how my dad treated my mother. My dad was a hardworking, strong, strapping guy you might think would be the typical macho male, but he was so loving to my mother. He was so attentive to her needs. And she would, when my father wasn't around, when he was at work, my mother would say to my brother and me, you guys, I want you boys to grow up to be like your dad. He always, treats me with respect. He shows me he appreciates what I do and how I'm raising you boys when he's at work. When I see a woman being mistreated or not being appreciated fully by the man in her life, it's almost like my mother's being disrespected, I know it sounds kind of weird, right?
No, I think that's a good way to look at it.
So my father was kind of the role model for me for how a man should be in a relationship. And it wasn't like he didn't have to say the words to me. I learned that by observing his example. And then when I was single, the first time, before I met my first wife, who is the mother of my children, I was always looking for a woman who was a lot like my mother, who was strong and within herself. But I knew that part of that strength that she had came from the fact that my dad showed his appreciation for her. So I said earlier, I've always been attracted to strong, independent women. But when I met each of my wives, I thought I didn't have to think about it. I just instinctively knew that I should give to the relationship as well as receive from it, the way I saw my dad doing,
Yeah.
So I guess I have to thank my father for being my role model. But it has paid off, though. I mean, there was a time in my early life when I was young, before my first marriage, I dated some women who, briefly, who almost wanted to be dominated and treated a certain way. They wanted the man to be the dominant force and the tough guy. And, I get maybe they didn't consider me macho enough, But when I met the woman who became my first wife, I thought, here's somebody who appreciates my sensitive side.
Yes.
Like the female side of the brain. And she expressed that to me, as has my current wife, same thing, So what I'm saying is not that, I'm this wonderful role model every guy should be like. All I'm saying is that I guess the main reason my female side of my brain is developed, meaning that I can empathize with what women feel, the emotions they express, the needs that they have. I listen. I try to pay attention. I want to know, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel bad. I didn't learn that from a lesson plan or from a lecture. I learned it from observing the example that my dad set. And then I was fortunate enough to have married two strong, independent women and who appreciated the fact that I gave them that.
Yeah.
I don't want to just, give all the orders and make all the decisions and manage the budget. I want their input. I want them to feel equal because I gain from that too. I gain from that as well.
Yeah.
I learn, I grow, I feel loved and appreciated because I give them love and appreciation.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But it gets back to my dad, though.
Shout out to Pops.
Yep.
Before we head out, I do have one more question for you, but I want to talk real quick about our partner here, Prolong. Actually, Spencer, would you like to try it? This is something I'm trying to do on Self-Reflection Podcast. You can pick whichever flavor you kind of want. So the goal here is for having people the guests that are coming on the podcast to try Prolong's product in real time and give a real feedback so that the audience out there can also get real people trying this product.
Okay. What flavor is this I got? It's coconut macadamia. Okay. These are two flavors I usually don't eat. I like all kinds of nuts. Macadamia is not my favorite, but I'm going to give you an honest opinion.
Yes, please.
I like the flavor and the texture. It's not mushy. It's soft. It's got some crunch.
Yeah.
And it tastes good. How many grams of protein?
I believe it's 190 calories.
For each bar is 5 grams of protein. I could easily eat 2 of these like a half hour before a workout and feel like I have some energy.
Yes. Thank you so much for your feedback there. Guys, like I said, if you are someone that is looking to go on a healthy diet, someone that is always on the go, 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 this definitely is one of the things that you can definitely have in your purse or in your gym bag. And, you just pop one or two in your mouth, like Spencer said, you just eat this. You can have a great workout. I think I work out on this and I feel great. I feel like I have the right energy to work out. And also after your workout, right, before you get a full meal in your body, right, this is something that I definitely think, you can eat that is healthy for you. It feels good, right? I think in today's society, the foods that we are putting in our body, I would say they're not the best, right? When you look at the three biggest mortality rate in the United States, I think it's heart attacks, diseases, cancer, and then I think diabetes. Yeah,
Right.
those are the three main causes. And
That's right.
the reason for that is the food, right? So, Prolong is something that can definitely support you with you rebalancing yourself and going on a fasting if you need it to.
Always look for low sugar in a bar like this, and this one has low sugar, but it's got it's only like 5 grams, but it's got high protein, it's got calcium and low sodium. That's good too. Oh yeah, I like this bar.
Yeah,
I'd go for this.
Thank you for that feedback.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Again, guys, if you use our discount code SELF10, you'll get 20% off on any purchase that you get with Prolong product. Spencer, back real quick to our conversation.
Yeah.
I know you and your daughter, Jessica,
Oh yeah,
right, have this amazing relationship. And, as a father, right, how important is it to have that dynamic with your daughter, right?
I can't even begin to tell you how important that is to me. It goes back to when she was a young child. So I have a son and a daughter. My son, Jason, is the firstborn. He's 3 years older than Jessica. But so when Jason was born, and like most dads, I was teaching him to play sports. Let's play baseball. Let's play basketball. Yeah. And when Jessica was about 2.5 or 3, she wanted to go with us everywhere we went. So I took Jessica along too. And when I go down to the baseball field and pitch to Jason and teach him how to hit, I would also pitch to Jessica. And she always felt included. Like, I didn't treat my son any differently from the way I treated my daughter. So as she got older, like a teenager and then a young adult and all that, we always had that same kind of closeness that I had with my son. We could talk about anything. For example, menstrual cycle is what I'm trying to say. Couldn't find the words. Okay, so let's talk about the menstrual cycle. When my daughter was like 11 years old, Jessica and her best friend at school were both looking forward to the day when their periods arrived, when they started their menstrual cycle. And she would always say, leading up to that day, she would say, I know it's close, Dad. I know it's going to happen soon. So as it turned out, I happened to be away on an assignment for ABC on that particular day in Jessica's life. And as I always did, I called home when I first arrived at my destination. And Jessica answered the phone. She said, oh, Dad, it's the biggest day of my life. I said, oh, don't tell me. You got your period, right? And she said, yes. And it was like, I felt so good that my daughter and I could talk about this very personal thing that's kind of a taboo subject between a lot of fathers and daughters.
Yeah.
But it was just so comfortable for us. It's always been that way. And I can't cite one thing, Lira, that a father can do to develop that. But if you have a daughter and she's very young, 4, 5, 6 years old, start having interaction and conversations with her at that early age so that as they get older, they'll still be willing to talk to you. Nothing will be, off the table.
Yeah.
Jessica talked to me about dating situations before she got married. And it's just such a blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had that relationship with Jason because we were a couple of guys,
Oh, yeah.
But Jessica feels as comfortable coming to me to talk about personal things as Jason does. And I just, I wish every father could have that because it just means the world to me,
Yeah, I love that. This podcast is being recorded in February, right? It's Black History Month in America. So I know that this is going to come out a little bit later, but Any words for the young Black women out there, you know, that you have to pass on the message to them in this moment?
Yeah. Um, just love who you are and love what you are. That's not always easy to do, um, because there are so many messages that we can get from the outside world, from the larger society, about who we are and how we look, and about our worth and our value. That may be negative messages
Mhm.
that don't help us build our self-esteem. But during Black History Month in particular, it's a great time to take advantage of all the resources out there that give us pride in our heritage and pride in our history and pride in our individual achievements.
Yeah.
And if we soak all of that in, like the Black Joy Parade last week
Mm.
in Oakland, take pride and joy in who we are. And, I think that helps us lift our spirits in those moments when the outside world may be putting us down.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much again for joining me on Self Reflection Podcast. It's a joy to be here. Thank you, Spencer, for joining me again on Self Reflection Podcast. I
Thank you
love,
for inviting
love
me.
having you on Self Reflection Podcast. I think our conversations are so rich
Yeah.
every single time. So I want to say thank you for gracing this space and for blessing us. To have you on here is magical to me, like every single time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lira. No, seriously, thank you. It's a magical experience for me as well. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Thank you. If you have yet to subscribe to Self Reflection Podcast, please go ahead and hit that subscription button. Also, check out our YouTube channel. It's called Self Reflection Podcast by Lira and Ndifon. I truly appreciate it. Comment, like, share, right? All of those good things are great for this podcast because it allows us to grow the podcast into something that you are also going to enjoy watching, right? Because we don't want to be yappy over here and you're not enjoying the content, right? So we want you to give your feedback to us so that we can also incorporate your idea in the podcast so that it can be more of a dialogue. So, you know what I'm saying? Like we're having a conversation back and forward, even though we might not be having it in real time, but you still feel as if you're part of the conversation. Right. So thank you guys again for, the amazing questions that we sent in this time as well. Again, if you would want more Spencer's gems, send in your questions, send in your thoughts, send in your feedback, right? Or also if you have something for Spencer, right? You maybe want to tell him. I do have something. I think I told you this one time, but some guy, I was on TikTok and my friend, I won't say some guy, I think he's my friend now. His name is Wayne. And he's all like, Spencer Christian? I was all like, yes, I do. He's all like, oh my God, tell him we miss him in New York. So Spencer, they miss you in New York, being on Good Morning America for 15 years. So you're being missed in New York.
I appreciate that. I miss New York too. I really do. Love the Bay Area, but I also miss New York.
Yeah. Thank you guys again. We're going to close out this conversation with I want you to remember that you're important, you're valuable, your worth doesn't come from anything outside of this world, right? Your worth comes from within yourself. And also, once you start seeking validation from the world, once you start seeking validation from everybody else and listening to what this world has to tell you about yourself, you lose a part of who you are, right? So please remember that you are valuable, especially to all my young ladies out there. I don't care what color skin you are, black, brown, green, yellow, whatever you choose to identify the color, right? Remember that you are worthy, and you matter, right? You matter. And also in this moment, don't forget to create some time for self-reflection because your mental health is going to thank you later. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Take care of yourself, love yourself, be kind, and be gentle with yourself. Until next time, you're listening to Self-Reflection Podcast. And this is your girl, Lira. Ta-da!
I love that.